Hey, gang. I am your humble co-host. And Matthew is back now. He had to go turn down the heat because he saw me and started sweating from underneath his nipples.
Was that Hey Gang? Was that your attempt at your impression of Ben Shapiro?
Hey,
gang.
Hey, gang. Let me tell you about Boll and Branch sheets. Right now, we're doing our biggest sale. 50% off the Daily Wire.
Where's Jim Bob when you need him? Alrighty, guys.
Ben Shapiro kind of sounds like Mike Mentzer.
That's true. He actually does.
Just talks fast.
Oh, that reminds me. Now there is an emote. We have new emotes, or whatever they're called, on YouTube. Let me try one here. Stronk. Yeah. So Stronk gives you a little picture of Mike Mentzer looking like a Chad. And if you type, let's see here, noticing. Oh, look at that. There's a noticing guy. This is, of course, in the live chat on YouTube. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, you're going to have to go look at our YouTube stream of this episode and check the live chat, where you can now use these different emotes. What was the other one I made? I think it was Don Draper with a Zoomer haircut. And who's
Zoomer haircut?
Yeah. So that's your
What's the Zoomer haircut? Is that
emote.
like the undercut fade thing with like the perm on top and the ramen noodle hair spilling over on the forehead?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was one other. Oh, King is the other one. So if you type King, it'll give you the King pilled logo. And if you become a member as Brody Alexander, what's up, young old boy? He just became a member of the YouTube channel known as King Pilled. It gives you your little icon. You get a little King Pilled logo badge on your icon. As you can see now, as Brody Alexander in the live chat has posted his first emote, Don Draper, the Zoomer. So this is a new way that you guys can support the show and join in on the fun of the live chat. You can become a member of the show. You have to, as I understand it, you have to do it from a desktop. It's not going to work from a phone. So if you're on a phone, you're going to look for a join button. It's not there. But if you go to a desktop, you can do it there. What's up, Well Emmanuel? We got another member.
Really dumb. That seems really dumb to me.
I can't fathom why they wouldn't have that feature. It doesn't even make sense. Cable says he's not going to double dip. So Brody says he just signed up from his phone. So maybe you can.
We welcome double dipping.
Yeah, we do.
It's called communion.
Oh, that's right. Well, Emmanuel using the King emote in the chat. All right, guys. Well, you can have fun if you want to become a supporting member of the show here. We don't have a whole lot of special stuff we're going to do for it necessarily. If you want that, you gotta get in the Discord. The King Pilled Discord is where it's at, which is going to be having a bunch of updates made to it here in the very near future. Android phone. Okay. What's up, 2-Bit Podcast? Another member of the King Pilled YouTube. So yeah, if you just want a simple way, I think it's $5 a month. Simple way you can give a little money to YouTube and then give some to us too. We appreciate that. We appreciate you supporting our overlords that allow us to stream here. But you can also support us. So you should also go become members at 2-Bit Podcast, their YouTube channel. Cooper and I were on there last night. The first part of the stream, we hopped in right at the end, and then he went members only. So if you're a member of the 2-Bit Podcast, you can hear us talking about some noticing and gooning and Zoomers and cooming, and I don't remember what else we all talked about. But so go support the 2-Bit Podcast as well, and you can hear us talk there. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for becoming members here. And if you want the next level, then you can join the King Pilled Discord. For a limited time longer, it's going to be available on Subscribestar. You can sign up. Oh, here, let me turn the music off. See, I just get jamming with it. It doesn't like. It's kind of nice just having this hanging out in the background, but I'm sure people probably don't want to hear it. So I know Cooper doesn't want to hear it. Yeah, if you for a limited time longer, you can join the King Pilled Subscribestar, and if you sign up there, you get added to the King Pilled Discord, where we have all kinds of good stuff going on. Last night, for the third time in the last week, I think I fell asleep on the Discord voice chat. We were having a great conversation there, and Grandpa Matty here just kind of conked out, and I realized it again when I woke up in the morning and was still on Discord, and everyone was making fun of me for it. When I was still live on the Discord voice chat. It'd be funny if I started. I don't know if I talk in my sleep. I did when I was younger. I don't know if I do now. But if you guys join the Discord and you get into that voice chat and you happen to check it at I don't know, 3 or 4 in the morning, Central Standard Time, you get me asleep, and who knows, I might be on there talking and be completely asleep, just talking to myself. That'd be something you guys could. That might be an extra little members perk. 2-Bit says I snore like a beast. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I just snore. Okay, so consensus is that I snore. Okay, so what was I going to say? We have memberships. We got new members on the channel again. Well, Emmanuel, 2-Bit Podcast, and Young Old Boy. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate your support. Hope you guys enjoy the little membership perks. And then again, you can join the King Pill Discord. There's going to be some big changes here made. Hopefully soon. We're a little technical stuff we got to work through, but we're going to be relaunching the supporting listeners group in a particular way. And anybody who is in the group before we relaunch it will be automatically grandfathered into the top tier of membership perks in the Discord. No matter what level you're actually supporting at, we're going to automatically grandfather you guys in as an appreciation for being, I guess, our legacy members. So once again, subscribestar.com/kingpilled. That will get you can sign up there and you can get your foot in the door before it closes. We will still have a supporting listeners group. You will be able to sign up for it. It's just going to be a little bit different. All right. So got a few different things that we're thinking about talking about here today. Cooper and I went down a really bizarre rabbit hole in the internet today. Probably not what you're. In fact, I guarantee you, it's not what you're thinking. I guarantee you have absolutely no idea what we saw. You literally, it would not be possible for you to conceive of it. It's very, very strange. There are some very weird corners of the internet. And this kind of ties in where this ties in with some of the stuff we've been talking about lately is it connects with this ZOOMER humor, the ZOOMER spirit, the connection that the ZOOMER spirit has to the Gen X spirit. And we've been talking about this stuff at length in the Discord voice chats lately. So I'm going to, some of the stuff I talk about today, if you guys have heard it before, either because I happen to talk about it on here or because you're in the supporting listeners group and you heard us, we were in one of the voice chats, we were discussing this. I apologize. I don't remember where I've talked about this and where I haven't at this point. But there's some really interesting stuff to I guess derive from this relationship between the Gen X spirit and the ZOOMER spirit, and then the Boomer spirit. And I think part of the reason, the big reason why this is really important to me and why I keep coming back to it and why my mind is really fixated on it is because part of what we're going to get in today is the changes that we're expecting to see over the next, 10 to 15 years. There's going to be some really dramatic changes. And the reasons for that are generational. They have to do with natural cyclic social cycles. But you have to be able to identify these cycles, which is really meta. It takes being able to step back from yourself and kind of survey the whole forest rather than just the individual trees. Then being able to see both the forest and the individual trees and disambiguate between them. And this is something that the nature of internet relationships being completely uncharted territory for human beings, it's really finding its fullness in the ZOOMER generation and the way they experience the world. Their minds are wired to navigate the weird, wild frontier of internet social relationships. And by internet social relationships, I'm not just talking about like, you know, a group chat where you bullshit on social media or whatever. I'm saying like the formation of entire markets, the formation of entirely new governance structures. These are what I mean by social relationships. So I think it's really important to understand the coming generation and the way the coming generation thinks before they and as they're getting into power, because I think this transition in power is going to be dramatic. It's going to happen very quickly, and it's going to have long-reaching effects.
Xavier makes a really good point here that I hadn't considered.
Ooh, this is a good point. He says, Zoomers are going to own the trades while millennials continue to drown in student loan debt. That's a really, really interesting thought. This is one thing that we were just talking about this in the voice chat last night, actually, that it's funny how the trades are actually, everyone was like, oh, automation is going to automate away all the blue-collar work. And the blue-collar work is the stuff that's surviving and starting to thrive. And all the white-collar stuff is what's getting automated away. So this is very interesting because the millennials kind of fell into this gap, this generational gap where they weren't fully adapted to online life, but they also weren't really as far along and established in their careers and their income and everything as the previous generation. So they sort of got the ladder pulled up on them, but then they didn't really get the benefit of the coming thing either. So they're kind of caught in between. This is why Jason from 2-Bit has said that the millennial generation, like their archetype is the managers. And this is actually like middle managers. And this is actually something I put in the title for the show today, the death of the managers, because I think that we're going to see the death of the managers, and it's going to be in large part because of this. So for those of you who are members, you can hit the Zoomer emote in the chat because we were talking about Zoomers. So before we get into that, the Cooper introduced me to something today, and this is part of this is just for entertainment's sake, just for us to have some laughs. But then the other, they're actually, I think it's very informative about like this particular brand of humor. You can really see something in the way that they look at the world. So let me do the screen share here and make sure it works. Okay.
Hey, it works.
Woohoo. So this is a guy that Cooper. Oh, you introduce him, Cooper. I just know whatever you've told me about him.
He is the greatest meme smith on the internet, in my opinion.
And what makes him so good?
He's funny.
I'm
sure you guys have seen his memes because they've gone viral, some of them many times, and they even to this day, he doesn't really make memes anymore, as far as I know. But to this day, like his memes get reposted all the time. He was really active maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and leading up to that, and he just makes really banging memes that are really in line with the Zoomer male grind set.
The Zoomer male grind set. You said that the other day, and I forgot what you'd said. So I'm glad you reminded me of that. Zoomer male grind set. We need to use that. So here's an example of this is his. It's called "Welcome to My Meme Page." For those who aren't watching, you're just listening. I guess I can't zoom it in. What happens if I zoom out? Ooh, if I zoom out, it zooms in. That's cool.
Interesting.
All right. There. So then you guys can. Oh, it's probably gonna fuck up the other tabs I have. Oh well, whatever. So this is an example of the type of meme he has. They're simultaneously really low effort and really high effort memes. That's one of the things that's kind of funny about them. This one here is presented as like, if you just look at it, it says 10 Principles of War on the top, and it has like an epic painting of a glorious battlefield, and it looks like it's like 10 quotes from Sun Tzu or something like that is typically what you see in this format. So it's usually a very serious kind of thoughtful, the type of thing someone reads through and they're like, oh wow, that's really interesting. This is like the middle age of the internet was when you looked at this stuff and you shared it and you're like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And so now he's parodying this format. It says rule number 1, the 10 principles of war. Principle number 1, the first thing you need in war is to have an enemy. Principle number 2, the best place to have a war is to have it where the enemy lives. Principle number 3, If you need an enemy, try making enemies with the devil, who lives in your heart and in your thoughts and in all the kingdoms of man. Principle number 4, don't get yourself into a war you won't be able to win. Try having a war against Toronto or Greece first, or try having a war against common sense or basic decency or prudence or even the remotest ambition. You seem like you'd be good at those. So there's a self-awareness to it. 5, if you give war a try and don't like it, that's okay. Don't let anyone talk you into doing something you don't want to do. You can always try again later when it feels right. Principle number 6, always lie to the enemy. Tell him you can do things you cannot do and can see things you cannot see. Tell him you're not there. Tell him you're very, very sick. Tell him you've got a big surprise for him. Tell him aloha from Hawaii. Tell him things that will make him puke. Tell him it's different this time. Tell him you've changed. Principle number 7, just because you are in a war doesn't mean you can't make friends. It doesn't mean you can't smile or laugh, and it doesn't mean you can't be yourself. Principle number 8, just because you are in one war does not mean you can't be in 4 or 5 more. Principle number 9, send a big plane out to bomb your enemy from space and then fly back to Missouri over and over again. Principle number 10, if you do not get your bedtime, you will never win any war. No one who is a sleepyhead has ever won anything in their life. His voice reminds me so much of someone, and I can't think of who it is. Let's find another one here. Let's pick this one. Sending bad vibes your way. Bad feelings. This is you, yes? I'm concentrating hard on skeletal imageries, despair, knives. Do you feel it yet? Tell me when you feel it. His voice, you know who it is? It's the Oatmeal. You ever read the Oatmeal?
No.
Oh, it's another. That's Millennial Humor. The Oatmeal is Millennial Humor, which is kind of, it's on its way to this, but it's not absurd enough. It's not as absurd as this is. Was there any others here that you wanted to look at?
That one with the fish in the middle there is pretty good. That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
So you've got one of these like evolutionary fish trying to come up out of the water like they're coming onto land, and it says, "Stop them! You missed your chance, pal." And the fish is coming out of their filthy water and is coming out onto our blessed ground. It says, "If you see a horrid beast evolving, push it back in." It's like I don't even know what to call this type of humor. It's
what's really funny is he's kind of playing on, it's like the leftist. This is like the leftist meme that's just a wall of text.
Mm-hmm.
Like 80% of his memes are just walls of text.
Right.
But they're actually hilarious.
They're kind of the thing that, like, if you just sort of glance at it, it looks like old internet content. It looks like the proto memes, the memes people were putting together when they were first starting to figure out what memes are. So if you kind of let your eyes cross and you don't actually read the text, it just looks like you're looking at one of these old things. But then you start reading it, and he's got a very distinct voice, this very kind of absurd, ironic, breaking the fourth wall type of character.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of Chris, Simpsons artist. Have you seen that guy?
Mm-mm.
He's another one. This would be a good example of the Chris. I think it's Chris, Simpsons artist. Yeah. Is he on? Okay, good. He's on Instagram. So this is very odd. This is very odd humor. It's kind of like some of it is funny and some of it is just kind of weird. So like this guy here.
Oh yeah, I know this guy.
Yeah. November 1st. It is Christmas. And this like really weird fucked up guy who has tons and tons of fingers. And this is what all of his art, it all looks like this. What is wrong? I wish that I was dead. Don't cry over spilt cow juice. Like random, like super long finger, like they don't have feet. This is this kind of weird, like starting to explore this. I don't even know what to call it. 4 signs you're addicted to your phone. When you wake up, the first thing you do is lick your phone. When you aren't holding your phone, you sniff your fingers so you can smell your phone. You would rather look at your phone than look after your stepson, Ian, who is actually on fire. You can get pregnant by your phone. You get pregnant by your phone so you can give birth to more phones. It's just this like really bizarre, inhuman kind of. It's sort
Yeah.
of.
It kind of reminds me of. There's a certain style there that kind of reminds me of like the llamas with hats. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? In that whole era, that's a good example of like llamas with hats. Is a good example of, like millennial humor and Charlie the Unicorn
Whoops.
and things of that sort.
Uh-huh.
That's when things were
Let's
starting to get weird.
Uh-huh. France, Ras, age 18, length 13 centimeters, eyesight, yes. Best friend, Charmander, catchphrase, Pivep. And he has one of these for each of them. Look at her face. Rakel, age unknown, length 7, best friend, Mothra, enjoys lumps. Catchphrase, we weren't on a breakfast. Okay, so sometimes this guy gets some good ones. Mothra, age 10,000. Love interest Godzilla enjoys cooking and entertaining. Okay. So, yeah, these are like, oh, yeah, it does have an Adventure Time aesthetic. It definitely
Yeah,
does.
Adventure Time. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Manuel says, remember when jokes were shared via email inside a PowerPoint? That and cringe motivational phrases with landscape images.
Uh-huh.
So that's actually, it's like those things, people did those things, and then those people began being perceived as cringe. And so then doing those things was perceived as cringe. So then people started doing them ironically. And then people started making parodies of the ironies. So it's like there's this progression in, you can see the way each successive generation relates back to the prior one and the way they perceive the prior one. So these are kind of like, these aren't directly like, there's the category of boomer memes, and these aren't making fun of boomer memes per se, but they're making fun of, they're poking fun at and kind of mocking and fucking around with the previous generation's normal method of communication. So this new generation, their method of communication, their method of relating to one another and interacting with the world has this weird self-aware, meta, ironic perspective where they begin embodying the exact opposite of what they think as cool, and in doing that are being cool to themselves.
Yeah, like and you can see the evolution, like the motivational posters or captions. That's a good example where you courage and then a little description and then like a picture of like a mountain or something, someone climbing a mountain or whatever. And then you got the next generation or the next phase of that where people thought all that was cringe. So they started making up like shitty versions of those where it'd be, edgy or whatever, and say, I'm thinking of an example of that would be, there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where there's a poster in Barney's office that says like, oh, why is the word escaping me right now? I just had it. Conformity, where it has a bunch of pictures of like penguins all lined up looking identical, and it says conformity, and then it has like, oh, the joys of conformity or whatever. So it's kind of like making fun of the motivational posters. And then the twisted, fucked up motivational posters got kind of boring. So you had people start posting the original motivational posters again, but doing so ironically. And then you had people making memes about the people who were doing it ironically. And then just like it slowly abstracts away from like the original thing.
And these are somewhat normal dynamics in human social interactions between generations, but they're not usually this amplified. You don't usually get to see over the course of human history, you haven't been able to watch these sort of mimetic, rivalrous back and forths evolve this quickly. But it's getting faster and faster because the internet is ultimately it's like a force multiplier on human ability to generate things. So the effect of the internet is that it's accelerating these cycles. And if you want to see where the cycle's going, you got to start figuring out how it's working, figure out how it's morphing. And the way there's like the cycle, and then there's the people who become aware of the cycle. And then they begin reacting in a certain way with respect to the cycle, which feeds the cycle in a different way. So you start getting into levels of you get into fractals, this cool math thing. There was one other kind of a similar sort of humor to that I just wanted to highlight while I was thinking about it. If you guys have ever heard of this little kind of a Gen X thing, have you ever heard of Jack Handey? Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. He was a guy who was on SNL for a long time, and you'd have this segment that would be like, it would be sort of like that motivational video where there's like some nice music and it's like panning across a landscape and you get this nice script on the screen and you have this nice voiceover and it's Deep Thoughts with Jack Handey. And he'd say stuff like, if you go flying back through time and you see somebody else flying forward in the future, it's probably best to avoid eye contact. Or if I ever get real rich, I hope I'm not real mean to poor people like I am now. If trees could scream, would we be so cavalier about cutting them down? We might if they screamed all the time for no good reason. Sometimes I think you have to march right in and demand your rights, even if you don't know what your rights are or who the person is you're talking to. Then on the way out, slam the door. I can picture in my mind a world without war, a world without hate, and I can picture us attacking that world because they'd never expect it. Or before you criticize someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you criticize them, you're a mile away from them and you have their shoes. This is a
reminds me of Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, it's very, very Norm Macdonald. And this here, like this, I think is part of this proto-Zoomer spirit that we've talked about before. It's no wonder that you get this sort of thing really kind of correlates to the 80s. Like the 80s is when Norm Macdonald was first coming up. That's when Jack Handey was with SNL, 80s and the 90s. You have this spirit of beginning to take these like warm, lofty, idealistic boomer tropes and start to satirize them and mock them and flip them on their heads. That really started with Gen X, and now in the Zoomers, we're seeing like kind of like the apotheosis or the exaggeration of the Gen X spirit. All right, so I want to continue some of this talk here and talk about how it affects the world plays into the World Economic Forum and the what do you call it, stakeholder capitalism. I think there's some dynamics there that are relevant to this. But before we do that, I want to read you guys these two tweets. There is so much there's so much in here. There is absolutely so much in here. I'm fascinated by the content of the tweets, like with the actual like substance of what he's talking about. I'm also absolutely fascinated with his prose, the way that he writes. The way that he writes is an art form. It's an art form, and it's an expression of a particular personality. You can just see it. You can. I don't know what it is. I don't know how we identify these. It's just like a particular pattern that some of us have become like, we recognize this pattern when we see it. There's a particular personality associated with this style of writing. And then it kind of ties back into what we're talking about with the generational stuff.
I'll send you down some weird rabbit holes.
Yes, we'll dip our toe in those rabbit holes just briefly, and then you guys can continue that if you'd like. But so this guy here, his name is Scorched Earth Policy on Twitter, and this was the tweet on. It was on Thanksgiving is when this tweet went super viral. Elon Musk replied to it. A bunch of people replied to it. He's quote tweeting. I'll scroll down here. He's quote tweeting this tweet from Josh Lakosh. It says, "Millennial humor is so empty. Their relationships are empty." And what it is it's a video that was posted on TikTok and then brought over onto Twitter. Well, here, can you hear that?
I cannot. You have it muted right now.
Could you hear it before?
No.
Audio's okay. It's just the typical like millennial girl voice. I got invited to Thanksgiving, and like Thanksgiving is so exciting.
She talks like Xavier. Everything's kind of a question.
Yeah.
Upward inflection at the end of everything that you say.
And then you've got to get a little bit of vocal fry. You kind of have to sort of act
maybe
like you just
the
don't
Red
care
Scare
about anything.
The Red Scare girls smoking cigarettes and Yeah, giving commentary. We should just start doing this.
It's
This
so
should
like
be our
ironic.
yeah, ironic.
Like
We should-
rain on your wedding day.
Oh,
So what she's saying is they have this celebration. This is pure millennial cringe. They have the celebration called Hanksgiving. So all these people apparently don't have families. Now, why might that be? Is it their fault that they don't have families? Is it not their fault they don't have families? In either case, it's sad and pathetic. And likely, you can kind of deduce, very likely, this maybe isn't fair, but it's very true that a lot of these people of this demographic, the type of person who would do something like this, where they would have a Thanksgiving celebration where all of them dress up like Tom Hanks. That's what this is.
I remember. It's got to be close to 10 years now. 10 years ago, maybe a year after we graduated, Xavier hosted at his house a Friendsgiving.
Xavier, come on, man.
It was supposed to be just all the buddies getting together for Thanksgiving or thereabouts and drinking a couple beers and hanging out. But he didn't remember to invite anybody. Until like
he had a Friendsgiving and forgot to invite people.
so I show up like an hour early. And then I was like, did you invite anyone? He just kind of assumed that everyone would know he was doing this. So then he sent out a text. No one showed up but one other. There was like two people. There was me and then one of our other friends and Xavier and maybe one other person, maybe not. And we sat on his floor and drank all the beer.
Oh my God. He's never going to live this down. Xavier's the loneliest person in the world. Well, Emmanuel with the noticing. That's great. Oh, man. Yeah, this is just like, I mean, I kind of, there's on one hand, there's like the sympathetic side of me that's like, you have these people. I remember being away from home and like going into school in Europe, and none of us had families there, so we would get together and we would do things that to try to make up for the fact we missed our families and that sort of thing. We just had different activities, but these are, in large part, these are people who have explicitly ostracized themselves from their families. They're not doing this because they don't have families to go to. They're doing this because they don't want to do Thanksgiving with their families. They've been estranged from their families for one reason or another, or their families are dead, or like these are products of the cultural degeneration. So on one hand, I feel sorry for them. On the other hand, many of them are creators of their own patheticness. So everyone was talking about this. This clip went viral, and then this guy's tweet went viral. And it's just part of the nature of this writing style is I think you have to just read straight through it. So I'm just going to read the entire tweet and then we'll go back and we'll talk about different aspects of it. But this particular writing style is like a form of art, and it's almost like kind of like a performance art. So I want to give it give it what it's due. A lot of people were all bent out of shape just about his specific writing style and like, oh, he used too many words and you like adjectives too much, whatever. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking, like, he's writing this way intentionally. It's not, anyway, you guys will get the point. So Scorched Earth policy. It's at SCEARPO on Twitter. I think it's probably Skerpo. It's just the first sound from each of the three words. He says, the flaccid asexual emptiness of millennial culture is the direct result of cohabitating male and female friendships in a middle to lower class environment, which possesses none of the aristocratic eccentricities to normally justify mixing women and men together in a platonic environment. When manifested in the office drone white collar / service industry crossover of the average millennial urbanite, you get a facade of equanimity masking a sneering underlying bitterness and hostility. But Scorch, everyone's just vibing out. What's your problem? Let people have fun. Chill out. No. I've been balls deep inside of the average, the office tier, Target furniture, core marketing degree, craft brewery, barcade, social circle via the barren woman, anxiety medicated, birth control, ex-girlfriend's friend group. I've looked these people in their swollen SSRI faces and seen the bare traced vestiges of what was once a soul. It's a natural fact that the men in such a friend group are either A, normal dudes quietly bored but playing nice because they're someone's boyfriend. B, beyond ditto. B, beyond unbelievably pussy-whipped soft betas who haven't acknowledged unrequited feelings for one of the girls. C, closeted or uncloseted homosexuals who may have been MK Ultra'd into a sodomite lifestyle from living the real-life equivalent of a sparkling water commercial diverse friend group for over a decade. These people are not having fun. Every group I've ever encountered that does this cringe shit is populated by people who all constantly complain about how depressed and anxious they are while making haha ironic jokes about wanting to die, living timid, trembling lives with little to no jouissance. The millennial is arguably the most unfortunate generation in recent history. They represent the apex of a devastating culture war and the most direct results of spiritual castration with the least amount of pushback antithesis elements among their ranks. Besides the obvious insufferable premise of an entire performative event being built around a shitty pun turning into the accidental idolization of a mutilation, blood sacrifice, cannibal, child rapist, reptilian adrenochrome junkie, the video is just one of many seemingly inconsequential irritations that the average millennial presents. Theirs is a world of nagging rationalizations and pseudo-sensibilities. Sometimes you need to take a step back and trust your gut instinct. The only thing standing in between you and the total domestication of your bloodline into the human equivalent of a labradoodle is your ability to say, nah, this shit's gay, and not be crucified by your entire friend group for it. The murmuring millennial male who goes along with the soft human resources tier Lululemon longhouse of burgeoning mids in his bumble-built friend group is the modern eunuch. If you're a young man and your friend group does shit like this and you're enjoying yourself, then by all means discard this entire post as some wackadoodle rant from a bitter incel or whatever. Live your life and be happy. But if you're in a friend group that does shit like this and you feel some resonance with what I've said, if you've known the quiet turbulence of bored rage listening to the forced wine-drunk laughter of your 400th session of Cards Against Humanity, then for your own sake, please free yourself. If you're charming and have good taste, take absolute control of your friend group and filter it down to something meaningful. If it's too far gone or you're not capable of that, slowly cut yourself off. Pursue something meaningful, make more money, become stronger, faster, more violent. Seriously, learn a new skill. You are wasting your time. If you're a young woman, stop wearing spandex, never watch another episode of Friends again, don't smoke weed, don't take SSRIs, don't take melatonin, don't take birth control. Gay guys aren't your friends. And if you don't have other female friends, it's because something is wrong with you.
Banger.
Absolute fucking banger. One of the most epic pieces of writing that I've ever read, much less tweets. This, as an aside, this is why I am fully on board with Twitter, the new Twitter with the expanded, with the ability, like, this is phenomenal. I want to read people who write like this, and I don't want to have it broken up into 240 characters or whatever dumb shit. This is phenomenal. So I just want to highlight a couple of the lines in here just for the sake of appreciating it. A couple of these lines that were just absolutely fantastic. It's actually 3 lines in a row here. The only thing standing in between you and the total domestication of your bloodline into the human equivalent of a labradoodle, which, oh my God, like that is how you sell the idea, is your ability to say, nah, this shit's gay, and not be crucified by your entire friend group for it. This sentence is just an epic, I don't know, like a firebolt at the mind of the terminally online person. There's something fascinating about being able to take the first part of the sentence, which is this kind of elaborate analogy, the total domestication of your bloodline into the human equivalent of a labradoodle. It's like this very wordy, punchy, elaborate, deep idea. And the second half of it is your ability to say, nah, that shit's gay. That juxtaposition of those two things together, this is very, very Zoomer. The next sentence, the murmuring millennial male, fantastic alliteration, who goes along with the soft human resources tier Lululemon longhouse of burgeoning mids in his bumble-built friend group is the modern eunuch. This is one of the best fucking sentences I've ever seen. This is so good. The murmuring millennial male, Lululemon longhouse, burgeoning mids in his bumble-built friend group. All of this alliteration is fantastic. And people see this and they think this is inefficient writing. This is hyper-efficient writing. He is packing so fucking much into each sentence. Like the murmuring millennial male. Describing what that is, you could have an entire tweet just breaking down this archetype of the murmuring millennial male, or you can call it the murmuring millennial male, and anybody who knows what you're talking about instantly knows what you're talking about. They can instantly identify the thing that this phenomenon that you're applying mouth sounds to, and they've got the mind picture. Who goes along with this soft human resources tier. Okay, this like soft human resources and tier. This is extremely online language. So human resources tier obviously is referring to like this you have these different tiers that are associated with different like aesthetics or different vibes. So human resources tier. I'm just imagining a boomer trying to read this sentence and just not even being able to. It would be like the website we were reading earlier, where it's like these are all words in the English language, but in this particular arrangement, it's just gibberish to me. So the soft human resources tier Lululemon Longhouse. Oh my God. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 words. He perfectly encapsulated the idea of the 36-year-old spinster who's married to her career as like a PR rep or something like that. And she goes out drinking and then goes back home and cries herself to sleep in her 72nd floor apartment, drinking wine and watching The Office. But he didn't have to do that whole description.
Her whole apartment smells kind of like cat piss.
Yeah. Yeah, like cat piss and hair products.
Yeah, ammonia and aerosol. Dude, we should come up with a product that's aerosol ammonia.
I wonder if you could even do that.
So when you miss your ex-girlfriend, you can just spray it on your pillow.
Okay, so the soft human resources tier Lululemon Longhouse of burgeoning mids, another just fantastic turn of phrase. In his Bumble-built friend
You're
group.
really coming into your own.
Yeah, right. In his Bumble-built friend group. So it's like his friend group was like basically built through. There's so many ideas contained in this. Built through an app, built through a dating app, built through like it implies like the idea of like polycules and polyamory and this just kind of just degenerate, meaningless lifestyle. So you don't like we talked the other day about like have the difference between having a community and having a tribe. These people have a community. They don't have a tribe. These people, I guarantee you, will turn on each other and backstab each other at a moment's notice. Their relationships are so incredibly shallow. This is what millennial relationships are like. This is what it's like to be a average 30, late 20s to 30 something person right now. This is my people. This is my demographic. And that is what Cooper's demographic looks at and is like, yeah, fuck this. You people are utterly gay. I want nothing to do with this lifestyle. But then Cooper's people also just sit at home and be sad, and they have their own weird communities on the internet that these people don't get. They don't get each other. There is no crossing over between these two demographics.
At least we're like actually funny instead of like Thanksgiving and Cards Against Humanity. Ha ha ha
ha. And what was the? Okay, yeah. So that's that tweet. So there's another tweet here. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to say about this particular one. I think we'll go to the next one here because, well, real quick before we do that, we're going to go down the rabbit hole of.
Brody's comment really nailed it. He said, "No, they don't have a community. It's a scene."
Oh, that is what it is. Yes, they have a scene. They have like a performative. I don't know. It's like, you know what? Oh, you know what just occurred to me? These people don't have. They've never learned how to be friends with people. They've never learned how to have normal human social interactions, and so they are LARPing friendship. They're like LARPing what they see on TVs and on TV shows and movies. They're LARPing what it looks like to have friends and community and stuff, and just sort of mashing up some sort of weird common interest that you guys have. They don't. So, like he says, it's a scene. Then the Zoomers are like the next evolution of that, where they are they're ironically LARPing in their different scenes. So they start interacting in the scene, and they're very self-aware, like they intentionally take a particular role in the dynamic, whereas the millennials are like unconsciously LARPing. The millennials think this is real. The Zoomers know it's not real, and because they can kind of detach themselves from reality, they can abstract out and then get super absurd. What's up, Joshua Ham? Good to see you. Cable
the
says
scenes are all like super fake. I
Yeah.
remember back when I used to be cool and play in a punk rock band. You get these crowds of people who would show up at frickin' Mac's bar several times a week, and they all kind of hated each other, but they hung out anyway because they didn't have anyone else.
Mm-hmm. A scene is a pop-up community, Cable said.
And they believed there was a lot of energy and like people were going places, and no one's gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Those people
There was a lot of activity masquerading
still going
as
to
achievement.
Mac's.
These are the people who are just drowning themselves in credit card debt so that they can try to make it seem like they have the life. If you're listening on the audio version of this, you're just gonna have to go watch the YouTube video to see what happened. Instagram photo friendships, yeah. Brody's coming with the bangers.
He knows his generation.
He does, yeah.
He knows it better than me. I don't understand you guys at all.
Yeah, it's like there's really this. It's funny, we've been talking about this stuff for a while, and I've been kind of struggling to conceptualize like what is the actual millennial identity, and it's kind of that the like millennials don't really have an identity. They're kind of just LARPing life, and they're sort of trying to follow this track that was laid down before them and taught to them, but like there's a reason why life coaches and and like guidance, like the whole guidance counselor thing has sort of been outsourced to different, like the whole reason this has become an industry is because the millennials never actually learned how to grow up. They were just kind of like some systems were built and they were like, here you go into the system. The system will teach you how to live. The system doesn't teach you how to live, apparently, it turns out. And so the millennials are like, okay, what's the next thing I'm supposed to do? You told me to go to college. I went to college. I got my degree. Now what do I do? And they're like, well, go
myself
like
into
get
a scene.
fucking job. Yeah. So they're kind of like, all right, I need to look like a college student. What do college students do? Well, let me see. What does Netflix tell me? Okay, I'm going to go act like the college student that I saw on Netflix. I'm going to go live that life, run up the credit card debt. And then all of a sudden you start getting the phone calls from the creditors. And it's like, wait, this is real. This is actually, nobody told me how to deal with this. Nobody told me how to balance a checkbook or do all this stuff. All these boomer things that they're like, oh, the freaking kids don't know how to do all these things. Yeah, because you motherfuckers didn't teach us.
Can't drive a stick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe the reason why your kids can't drive a stick is because you were a shitty dad. You ever think about that? Maybe you're the reason they can't drive a stick. This is the dynamic between the millennials and the boomers. And the Zoomers are like the younger siblings who are sitting there watching, and they're like, man, my older sibling is a fucking retard. Like, how can they not function? Not knowing that the Zoomer gets to benefit from watching all the mistakes that the millennials make. The Zoomer gets to sit back and he's like, okay, so the millennials tried that, and I don't want to be that because you guys are completely insufferable. You're cringy to the max. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction completely. So the millennials are kind of like little I don't know, like marionettes of the boomers, kind of. The millennials are trying to live in the world the boomers thought they were creating. And Gen X is like the generation that recognized the bullshit about the boomers because they were the closest to them. They saw all of this, and they had this characteristic attitude of being like, like rebellious, renegade, individualist, like the system doesn't care about you. Of course, it's not fair. The kids that were they raised themselves on the streets. Like Jason says, he brings up the commercial, or there was a comedian or something talking about this commercial that they actually had to run commercials in like the 80s that said 70s and 80s. Like, do you know where your children are? Are you like parents are just sitting at home, their kids are out running around the neighborhood, and they're like, do you know where your children are? Can you make sure you're aware? But it was like the people who would go out and they knew it was time to come home because they'd hear their dad yelling down the street, oh, okay, gotta go home now. This sort of overlapped into the early part of the millennials, but by and large, the millennials grew up in just a completely different atmosphere with the helicopter parents. They got the helicopter parents, the helicopter parent segment of the boomers versus the completely hands-off segment of the boomers.
Yeah, that was me.
You got helicopter parented?
Well, I had I had two extremes. My dad was the former, my mom was the latter.
So you got kind of a mixed experience then. That's kind of why you're an early boomer, or you're an early zoomer. Yeah. Okay, what were we saying here? We were going to go and look at this here. Yeah, we're going to go down a rabbit hole here for a minute.
All right, guys.
So
Nick Land and Andy Warhol had a baby.
Yeah. So first of all, so this is this guy who wrote that tweet, Scorch, as he's known, Scorched Earth Policy, at SCEARPO on Twitter. First of all, I'd encourage you guys to go check out Yayo Supply. It's yayo.supply. Just go to that website, go check it out, dig around for a little while. You'll find some interesting stuff. But his bio says Chief of Staff at Remilia Corporation. And the reason I started doing this is I went and I looked at a couple of other tweets, and I saw a few other people that had this same writing style as him, making really, really fascinating observations about artificial intelligence and crypto, and just this kind of, I don't know what you would call this, sort of like an anthropology of like looking at human anthropology and linguistics, and just a lot of really interesting stuff. And I was like, this is very much like Nick Land people. This is Nick Land's style of prose, or it's like an internet adaptation of Nick Land, not internet. Nick Land was on the internet. It's like a social media adaptation of Nick Land's writing style. So it says Chief of Staff at Remilia Corporation. So I go to check out Remilia Corp. First of all, this is what. So this is the sort of thing that you see in these circles here.
I hate anime so much.
Hold on. This is gonna just keep getting weirder. This is fascinating to me. Just these memes, all of this. This is all. It's anime, but like hashtag based retard gang. There's something about this that just doesn't seem. I don't know. It keeps me digging. So, anyways, Remilia Corp. So I'm like, well, what's this Remilia? So I come over to remilia.org. And this is their website. I was like, well, this is interesting. Remilia presents the first official release of hashtag based retard gang, the chaotic love-pilled collective formed of network spirituality acolytes from the Milady community. The world's first post-identity, hyper-referential post-authorship K-pop group has manifested abundance. Limited edition release of 150 cassettes. So, and you probably, I don't think I shared tab audio. But
available on Bandcamp.
There's music playing on the website like there would be like the way it was on MySpace. Like, remember how you go to someone's MySpace page and they'd have a song they could put a song on their MySpace page that would play while you were scrolling through it. That's what they have here. I don't even know what to call it. It's like, I don't know, weird K-pop dance music, something. I don't know. It's completely. This is getting me out of my depth. I don't know where I am. I'm like, when I make it to this point in the internet, I'm like, all right, I'm lost. I am just sightseeing here. I have no idea what's happening around me. So I'm scrolling down. They've got cigarette cases in Korean. They've got these weird flags. They've got all this art. They've got this banner running across here. We're not in employment, education, or training. We're viral crypto zillionaires. This thing's just this banner's just going across this whole time. We don't have to try. It just then the even better part is this one down here. It's going the opposite direction. So like you have to read this one backwards. The words come out and you have to read them backwards. I'm trying to remember some of the ones that it said before. We're God's little warriors. We're network commandos. This is getting into major Zoomer schizo humor. This is Cooper. I mean, this is even pretty far for Cooper. He was starting to feel a little we're lawyered up in the court of clout. This had Cooper even starting to feel a little out of his depth. But this is maybe it's because you're an early Zoomer. You need to be a later Zoomer to.
Could be. It also is like the Nick Land acceleration of stuff. I just like never really caught a taste for. Never really interested me.
Remilia corporate trucker cap. Milady orange bootleg beret. Please be patient with me, trucker cap. And what was the other? So there was this, and then there was somewhere else that we're CDJs. We're supplement freaks.
We're live laugh lovers.
Yeah, we're live laugh lovers. That was one of theirs. So this is all like it's getting into like deep, like weird irony. Like, so I'll say this like as I'm going through this Twitter account and these different associated Twitter accounts, there's a lot of women involved in this that do not sound like women. Like women don't think and talk and speak this way. They're very, very unusual. Now,
plus
the
4
ones
standard
who are
deviation IQ.
Yeah. They're now, if there were women who did think and speak this way, they would probably find themselves into a super weird internet niche community like this. But one of the things that I suspect is going on, super, super autistic. And one thing that I suspect is going on is that how do I say this? I think that these are either, some of them might be actually, I almost said the word that's probably that this platform doesn't like. Some of these are probably transmissions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are probably transmissions or grannies. Some of these are probably grannies. But what I kind of think is happening is you have some of these people who are like becoming the granny version of grannies. So I'll just say the full word. If a transgender person, you have like a transgender woman, then what happens when you get a transgender woman? So someone who's like once you've detached from reality, then there's nothing restricting you. You can go to infinite levels of irony, infinite levels of regress. So you can have someone who is a granny of the grannies. I don't know if that makes sense, but like these people are detaching from reality, but they're doing it in a really self-conscious way.
Yeah. You're intentionally identifying in troon fashion as a troon.
Right. So you're becoming like the troon to the troons. Which is exactly the type of humor that you get into with this. As you dig deeper, this is obviously, it gets very much into crypto, and I want to follow these people for a little longer and start to try to understand their view of the world, because it's actually incredibly philosophically complex. And I think in a lot of ways, these are the people who are seeing the evolution of technology the most clearly. They'd
probably tell you that you're completely wrong.
Most likely, yeah. Like part of the nature of these sorts of communities is that they're intentionally impenetrable. They intentionally, it's like you have to earn your way into the community. They have completely their own form of language, and they're constantly experimenting with just memes on memes on memes. Everything is an elaborate performance art. And they're communities. These are like NFT communities. They're built around Ethereum and NFTs and all that sort of stuff, which is mostly outside my wheelhouse. I basically can't comment on it because I don't understand it well enough. But they are Slowly whiteboard. I identify as trans granny. Yeah, we're breaking poor Kyle's brain. Kyle's not cut out for this shit.
Stop, get me off this planet.
Yeah. Yeah, Brody says it reminds me of something an AI would generate. You know what's crazy is I don't think we would know the difference. I think that like this is what's starting to happen. The AI generated content would be identical to what they're generating because they're thinking like the AI thinks. This is part of the thing with this is the Zoomer
autism.
Yes. This is the Zoomer autism is that they're beginning to think like the AI before the AI. They're becoming indistinguishable psychologically from the AI.
These people, this little click here that we stumbled upon, it seems that they're pretty influential.
Mm-hmm. Very much. And
really niche schizo fringe whatever art collective. I don't know what you'd even call it. They're like the movers and shakers of right-wing dissident thought.
Yeah, very much. They're like a live action, not live action. They're like a perpetual performance art. They're a perpetual performance art that they've turned into a social governance structure where part of being invested in the organization is participating in creating the art of the organization. And they're blurring the lines between art and property and politics and biology. Everything is getting blurred, which is another characteristic of like the postmodern thing. You have the postmodernists who were identifying how arbitrary everything becomes in a liberal society. If you take out the incarnational part of the society, then all of these things just become arbitrary distinguishers. So these guys it took a little bit of digging, but it became clear. Like you could see it in their cadence and in the way they talked and the ideas they're talking about and stuff that they're at least influenced by Nick Land. And as you dig a little further, it becomes clear they're explicitly influenced by Nick Land. They're like taking his ideas and running with them. And there was something they said about I can't remember what it was. I'll see if I can come up with it later.
Check out Jezebel Gebergably. Similar schizo but music.
Interesting. That sounds like Cooper's jam. Schizo music. Slowboy Whiteboard said, "Did you see the fake plastic finger that you can put over your ring finger to make it look like you have 6 fingers, so you can say surveillance camera footage is AI in the courtroom?" That's clever. So there's a big these people are accelerationists. And part of what I'm realizing is part of being an accelerationist, the people who are actual accelerationists, not just the guys who like think the word sounds cool and they're like, "Oh yeah, burn it all down, bro." These people aren't burn it all down, bro.
They're actually pretty white-pilled.
Yes. They're very optimistic. They're very upbeat. There's kind of it's in a kind of an ironic, self-aware sort of way where they're constantly white-pilled even when it's very obvious that there's no reason to be. They're consciously choosing that we're going to play this game of being white-pilled about everything no matter what. And it turns out it makes them really productive. They're incredibly productive across a lot of different domains. And it's becoming pretty clear that in the same way, for example, that you made this point, Cooper, in the same way that the Charlie Kirks of the world have their people who are telling them what to say, essentially. People, whether they're aping them consciously or just following orders. Those people have that. you've got these guys that are on Twitter that are more of the there's the Aristophanes, Zero HP Lovecraft, the guy we've been our
favorite Gunic.
inaugural Gunic. Yeah. A lot of these guys who seem really niche, and they're kind of really far out on the fringe and everything. But compared to these guys, those dudes are they're like closer to Ben Shapiro than they are to these guys. These guys are so far out on the fringe. And it seems very clear to me that these are the guys who are really influencing the dissident right-wing thought space that is then influencing the mainstream right-wing thought space, which is then influencing the mainstream thought space. We're tracing it back to like the fringes of the internet, which is where the real innovation and everything happens.
Yeah, they're just like accelerating on memes.
Mm-hmm. And like literally, like they've managed to intertwine art, which memes are a form of art. It's like a linguistic art, and then it can be an actual like pictorial art, and you can combine those things, and then you can combine that to property and money
and music.
There's math at the root of all of these things. They're like, this is, I don't understand it, but this is where society is going. Society is following these types of people, for better or for worse. So I think it's good to understand, at least be looking at them, even if you don't understand them.
Well, and think of, you've mentioned before that Generation A, the kids coming up now, who are the kids of the millennials and maybe some of the older Gen Z, like my kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what's the word you use? Like turbo zoomers? They're even crazier, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna
get that shit.
Yes. Oh yeah, very much so. Because like they're gonna be learning this stuff. I mean, I'm sure that by, I don't know, 10 or 15 years from now, kids are going to be learning how to mint NFTs before they're like 10. They're going to like this sort of thing, or at least by the time they're in high school, like they're going to learn this sort of stuff very much. This is like the language of the future. These are the directions that it's going to go. This actually gets us into the other tweet for this guy that I want to read, and the conversation that's going to tie into. Slowboy Whiteboard said, "There are always reasons to be white-pilled in Christ," and that is absolutely the case. All right, so let's come over to this other tweet from this guy. And this tweet is a response to his original tweet. Do us a favor and like the stream, guys, if you're watching live, or if you're watching afterwards. Throw us a like on the video and comment on it. Let us know your thoughts on this. Call us names. Tell Cooper he looks funny. And it helps us with the algorithm, helps us grow the show, get it in front of more people. And then you can also, if you're just encountering this on YouTube for the first time, you can also go download it on any podcatcher. And if you're listening to this on a podcatcher, you can go watch us the live stream on YouTube as well. Shout out to our new YouTube members today. We got Jason from the 2-Bit Podcast. We got Brody Alexander, young old boy. And we got Well Emmanuel. Appreciate all of you guys. So Kat Schrodinger replied to his original tweet that we just finished going over and said, "You're all about natural, yeah? Isn't this natural evolution, i.e. nature balancing itself once at the point of overpopulation by evolving into a society less likely to breed?" Now, I thought this was really interesting after kind of going through some of this guy's, like viewing this guy and seeing him as being part of this like weird NFT collective accelerationist Andy Warhol, like extremely online thing. Because this person who apparently has been following him for a while says, "You're all about natural, yeah?" And I was like, what on earth is natural about this guy's, like, anything this guy thinks or talks about? I've just started following him, so I've never seen him before. And then I read this tweet, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's these are like two of the best tweets I've ever read. So let's go through it. He says, "It's actually a very interesting line of discussion, processing deliberation as a symptom of natural selective biology. I would argue that this isn't completely natural on its own. It's a byproduct of a select number of individuals propagating a consumer culture meant to rob people of their autonomy. The intent is to create neutered cattle for more consistent markets and easy maneuvering for political gain." The actual people behind this process aren't all in some boardroom conspiring together. It's a simultaneous effort from a decentralized series of think tanks, marketing groups, media conglomerates, etc. This is when I started getting excited as I was as I was reading this, because this is what I've been trying to say to people. Like, it doesn't have to be a conspiracy to also be a conspiracy. People don't have to be explicitly conspiring for it to seem like a conspiracy. So he says, much like how vultures, hyenas, and ants all don't coordinate when they go to eat a dead gazelle's carcass. Again, fantastic visual. That really sells it. Its incentives themselves steering certain opportunist factions into having a population become lobotomized for personal gain. And there's an even split between financial incentive and political incentive between these differing groups. When you talk about what's natural, there's the all-encompassing sense of everything human beings do is just a reflection of their nature. Capitalism is an extension of biology. Money is information, is bacteria. Time is a parasite, et cetera, et cetera. I just was going back through listening to some of our old King Pilled episodes from a couple of years ago, and there was one of them where I was talking about this, that when you're talking about, we have this arbitrary distinction we've created between nature and humans, as if humans are somehow not part of nature. And so when a human does something, it's unnatural. We even have these categories like natural and synthetic. Like what is it? Man making something, why does that make it unnatural? Why is it unnatural if a man makes or does something, but then it's not? So it hints at some sort of weird epistemology where you see man as somehow like separate from nature as opposed to a part of nature. Yet at the same time, these same people will see man as, oh, we're just evolved monkeys. Like, what is it? How do you evolve away from nature? So this happening on a grand scale is natural, but so is the response. Again, the thing that's happening, he's saying. So this happening, it's this millennial malaise, this millennial, like, it's like the uncanny valley of social relationships. You've seen the uncanny valley where it's like, when they're doing animation and they're trying to get they get it almost looking human-like, but it's still just different enough that it kind of triggers the yuck factor, or what do they call it? The ick factor. Is when you get like the ick factor from like animation that's almost human, but it's a little different. Usually it's the upper lip is like weirdly stiff and it doesn't move like a person's natural upper lip does. That's what this millennial social gathering thing, like Thanksgiving, it's like the uncanny valley of social relationships. So this happening on a grand scale is natural, but so is the response coming from nodes in the network choosing to reject the outcome. It's natural for a snow leopard to devour a mountain goat, but it's just as natural for the goat to escape, leaving the snow leopard to starve to death. So yes, it's natural to watch a civilization castrate itself in the face of misrepresented incentives, but it's also natural to reject that outcome and create guerrilla propaganda to redirect such a fate. There you go. That's a little peek into his ethos. That's part of, as you kind of dig into the what was it, Yayo.supply and the Remilia, this whole thing, you'll realize that this is an intentional guerrilla effort that's very, very, very effective, because these people are operating on such a like a core level of human psychology. The delineation between what's natural in a traditional biological sense as it applies to humans is basically just semantics. All we can do is compare what we've been doing for a longer period of time to a shorter period of time. By that metric, civilization itself isn't natural. We've been fucked up since the domestication of plants and animals. If you want to take that standard further, we've been fucked up since the discovery of the language parasite. If you want to go even farther, the cycle of discovery and exponential acceleration of technology wildly transforming us is a fractal infinite in every direction. At a large enough scale, everything is natural. I just got to give him a shout out for using this really cool word, fractal. I don't know if you guys have heard of fractals. They're really cool, man.
They're like this math thing.
Yeah. I love math. I even put it in my name. So Math Erickson, yeah. Great. Now I need to change all my social media profiles. I thought this is really interesting, especially like this little throwaway line. Capitalism is an extension of biology. Money is information, is bacteria. Time is a parasite. These are all like, holy shit, please please write an entire blog post on just this subject so that I can so that I can read that. So I guess I don't have a super clear segue from this into the next thing I wanted to talk about. I wanted to put that out there because I think we'll refer back to this in the future.
There's a handful of things in here. It's a really interesting
go ahead.
tweet, but it's an interesting tweet, but there's a handful of things in here that I don't agree with. I don't know why yet. I'd have to think more on it, but it's kind of tripping an instinct.
Do you want to talk about that, Cooper?
Well, scroll down. I guess it depends how they're defining their terms. Like capitalism is an extension of biology. I just flat out disagree with that. But I was going to say I think capitalism's rather artificial, but he's kind of redefining things here about what's natural and what's artificial. So, maybe I should withhold.
That's kind of the whole thing here. Like we create these categories like natural and artificial, or what, like natural and unnatural, but it kind of begs the question of like, what is nature? What is
and furthermore, the tweet that he's responding to, I just think I disagree with its premises. That what we're looking at is the population basically castrating itself at the point of overpopulation. I don't think we're anywhere close to overpopulation.
Yeah, that's true. But then I guess then the question is, if there's been sustained propaganda for years that we're close to overpopulation, then to what extent does that embed itself in the psychology of people? And then to what extent is that natural versus unnatural? Is it natural to propagandize someone? And in the way that we use natural and unnatural? Because like natural and unnatural is kind of used to mean like real, or there's almost like a purity factor to it. Like something's unnatural. It's like impure. It's icky. It's artificial.
Brody says, I often hear argument that capitalism is a description of what is. I mean, I guess if that's how we're defining it, then maybe I'd have to reconsider. But capitalism, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a boomer here and just like, well, this is how capitalism is actually defined traditionally. It means this, this, this. I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. Certainly libertarians would agree with that, and I think libertarians are gay, so maybe I'm just constitutionally averse to chalking capitalism up to a description of reality.
I guess okay, interesting.
Description of a certain kind of reality or a certain kind of experience, maybe.
So you took this. I'm understanding now. When you read that, you read it as like saying that capitalism is like the natural state of humans or something like that.
Granted, I don't understand. I haven't really dipped my toe too deeply into the Nick Land world. That's all very heady. Maybe I'll do a deep dive on that and come back and let you know what I find. But it seems to me that they are capitalists in a sense, but they're not defining capitalism in the traditional sense. Like
that's interesting because
capital. They have a particular definition of capital. And then they call themselves capitalists with reference to that particular definition of capital. And therefore they're capitalists of a sort, but it's not like your traditional capitalism.
It's a mouth sound mind pictures thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Nick Land, I believe I heard him argue at one point that he believes capitalism began with the invention of the number 0. And then capitalism has just been accelerating since then, or something of that sort.
Oh, interesting.
I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, but like I said, I've only dipped my toe into that world a little bit.
So when I read this, capitalism is an extension of biology. The way I read it is that he just picked something kind of random, just like he could have had any other ism in here. But what he's pointing at is that the development of ideologies is not unnatural in the way that we use natural and unnatural. Like an ideology is not foreign to the human species. An ideology is a product of the human species. Now, this is operating from kind of a secular evolutionary perspective, but like these are when we contextually use the term natural and unnatural, we're using it kind of in this context, typically. And so it's like, is it natural versus is it synthetic? And an ideology, like a thing, a set of ideas conceived of by human beings, shouldn't be thought of as unnatural. It's not that it's the problems with these things aren't that they're unnatural per se. There's other things that are wrong with them, which is kind of what he's getting at, I think, with the broader tweet is that whether
my point with mentioning that at least Nick Land, as far as I know, kind of stakes the beginning of capitalism with the invention of the number zero, is to point out that that far preceded capitalism in like the liberal sense.
Right.
So they're referring to something different.
Well, now you've given me something to go read and study, because this would be. I don't know why I haven't really read much Nick Land, because I know a lot of people talk about it being really impenetrable and hard to read, but it actually kind of like something about the way that he puts words together just scratches an itch in my brain. So I actually like enjoy his prose. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to go do that. All right, so let me think of where I wanted to go with this. So there's okay, I don't need that anymore. Okay. So what happens when boomers die? We've been discussing this. We've been discussing this in the King Pilled Discord voice chats for the last.
Do all boomers go to heaven?
No. At least I don't think so. I don't know who. I guess technically it's theoretically possible, but no. We've been discussing basically this growing dynamic, because we've been exploring, fleshing out the relationship between the Zoomers and Gen X, and they kind of have this kindred spirit thing going on, and then the Boomers and the Millennials sort of have this kindred spirit thing going on, and the Boomers as a generation have held on for vastly longer than most generations do. Normally, Boomers would have fallen out of power earlier. Like, people didn't remain in the positions of daily institutional power well into their 80s in the past. It's not normal. But because of the nature of the Boomer system that they inherited, they're like the trust fund kid is the analogy we've been making. You have this trust fund kid that inherits the system, and they're able to spring themselves up into positions of enormous power because they're capitalizing on this system that's been introduced that is unique. You get the American global empire that really kind of comes into its own immediately after World War II and proceeds to spend the next several decades essentially just kind of flogging every last little bit of value that they can out of every corner of the world and accumulating it all back to the capital city of the empire, which is the United States. So United States citizens have been disproportionately enjoying a cheap cost of living and exponentially growing technologies that they benefit from, and all of this. They're capitalizing on all of this at the expense of everyone else. So the U.S. got extraordinarily wealthy all of a sudden, and this, in the Boomer mind, this just gets attributed to, the magic of capitalism. We freed the market up, and we eliminated all the Nazis in the world, and we beat back those evil communists, and
worked really hard.
And then we worked really hard, and that's the beauty and magic of capitalism. It just magically makes dollars appear in the sky. And then we just pick those dollars up. We go out and we harvest our dollars every morning, and because we're good red-blooded Americans. And then it's just, at this point, it's very obvious that this is not actually how this shit works. Google the petrodollar if you need to. The Boomer generation established themselves in positions of power and authority by capitalizing on this wave, writing right after like in the immediate post-war period. Then they've institutionalized themselves at the top of these power structures, and many of these power structures are built as these egos that we've talked about. They have this embedded growth obligation that is it's required. The nature of the system is that it has to continue growing. It has to continue growing and expanding. There has to be more and more and more people in it for the system to succeed and proceed successfully.
Slow Boy's turning on us.
What's Slow Boy saying?
Shut it down.
You're using juice talking points. One person's success doesn't necessarily mean it's at anyone's else's expense. No, I'm not saying it necessarily means it's at someone else's expense. I'm saying it was at someone else's expense in this particular historical case. The U.S. economically benefited at the expense of these other countries through forcing trade deals on them and
which was
weaponizing
done by juice.
Yes. They're weaponizing the power of the regime to enrich the heart of the regime. This was the first thing that was done. So they enriched themselves. They extracted themselves from the rest of the society, and they're hoarding. Now I sound like a Bernie bro. They're hoarding all of this wealth, and they're accumulating all of this and insulating themselves.
But you see, Matt, hoarding money is actually a good thing for the small guy, because when you hoard money, that takes it out of like the pool of money and increases the value of the dollar.
Right.
That's what the
Oh, why did I
libertarians would
think of
say.
that? You're right. The Slow Boy
Hoarding money is actually Scrooge McDuck is actually good. We need more.
Right. The problem with society is that we aren't all Scrooge McDucks. That's the big issue here. That's
right.
If we're all Scrooge McDucks, then none of us are. And there, you just got rid of Scrooge McDuck. So the boomer generation has persisted at the top of these institutional power structures for a very long time. You look at the meetings of the world leaders, and you're starting to get little representatives here and there that are younger, but the vast majority of the most powerful people in the world are all at least retirement age, if not well past it. There's the particular characteristic of the boomer generation is I got mine, I'm keeping it, you got to work and get yours, with a completely like decontextualized understanding of the reality of the market now versus back then. The boomers as a generation, individual boomers are different than this, but as a generation, characteristically, the boomers have this attitude of my kids aren't getting my wealth. I built this wealth for myself. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to flush the last little bit of it down the drain on my end of life care and to ensure that I'm nice and happy and comfortable. And on the flip side, the kids are like, all right, well, fuck you, mom and dad. I'll put you in a nursing home and let you pay your way through it. Meanwhile,
and then when
I'm getting the dregs.
Yeah, once you die, we'll sell off the last bit of the family farm that you squandered and take our cut and burn it on a new car or something. Right. Now, the funny thing is what's going to happen here is within the next, just think about dates here. So if you say the boomers started around, I don't know, 1947, 1948, then that means the oldest boomers are somewhere around 75 now, 75, 80. They're in that range, which means they're already living on borrowed time. They're already above the average like day of death, life expectancy. Yeah. Additionally, you've got the youngest boomers who really it's kind of right around 1960, 1963, somewhere 1965, somewhere in that range. So basically they're about 60. The youngest boomers are right about 60. And as you get to the young boomers start becoming a lot more like Gen X. So we've got all of these old boomers who are holding on. There is tremendous wealth and institutional power under their control because they got themselves to the top of these systems, and then they've just sat there for years and years and years and let everybody back up behind them. So over the next, 10 to 15 years, there's going to be a massive die-off of boomers. Virtually all the boomers are going to die.
which means much of the boomer worldview, which is what so many of these institutions and these systems are established in the spirit of the boomer worldview, that worldview is going to die. And you've got these next generations of largely Gen X, the more earlier, more advanced millennials that aren't as incompetent. They're the ones who are essentially positioned to step in and fill this void. And I'm not saying that the boomers are going to die and all of their money is just going to get distributed out into society. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the boomers are going to die and relinquish all sorts of capital. Maybe it's going to go into the trust. Maybe it's going to, in either way, there's going to be new people who are now responsible for this type of capital and for distributing it and allocating it and using it. And you're going to have the Gen X mentality ascending into power and actually making their full stamp on it, which means people like Elon, Bezos, Peter Thiel, the whole PayPal mafia, Mark Andreessen, what's the Salesforce guy? What's his name? Benioff, Mark Benioff. This is a very different psychology. Gen X is the generation of cryptography and the generation that invented the blockchain, essentially. It's the generation that grew up on the internet. They grew up playing like internet-based strategy games and video games. They're the ones who were developing video games. They see the world in a very different way. They're going to be ascending into positions of power, which means that the positions of power are going to take they're at least going to be psychologically become very different. And I think they're going to take a different shape. One of those shapes is, let me see how I can kind of get through this as quickly as possible because we're already past an hour and a half, but I wanted to get into the stakeholder capitalism thing. So stakeholder capitalism is this big, I don't know, boogeyman. A lot of people are very worried about it. It's associated with the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Put most simply, the idea of stakeholder capitalism is that rather than shareholder capitalism, where the company has a responsibility to its shareholders, stakeholder capitalism says that every single company has a fiduciary duty toward anybody their company comes in contact with. So that would be customers, contractors, employees, communities that they exist in, other companies, literally like every person in the world. So you're taking an organization and you're saying this organization that exists to do these things has a fiduciary duty to literally everyone. That's not a company, that's a government. You've just created a government. This is what stakeholder capitalism is. This is the whole Great Reset. You're going to own nothing and you're going to love it. What we're seeing is a transition from the managerial era where the managers exist as an intermediary between the private companies and the people. You have the public managers. That is what constitutes the government. That third party, that intermediary, is being taken out of the way. And it just so happens this corresponds with the psychology of the millennial, because the millennial is like, we need to instantiate and preserve all of the things the boomers created. So we need to have, there's nothing a millennial loves more than a fucking HR department. Ugh. But what's going to happen is, so everyone sees this World Economic Forum thing with stakeholder capitalism, and they're like, oh, DEI and all of this. I'm here to make the case that automating an HR department is the same thing as eliminating it. And this is what's happening through, right now, what we're seeing is all of the white collar jobs are the ones that are being automated. One of the easiest ones to automate is an HR department. You're already starting to see it happen. First it's going to get outsourced. That's what's really starting to happen. HR is being outsourced. Pretty soon, HR is going to be automated. because you got to think at the same time, the people who are coming into the positions of making the, like, do you think Elon Musk wants to have an HR department that he has to deal with? Or does he just want to automate it? He's like, whatever. What do you want? DEI things? Okay, here. Let's put a couple lines of code in here, set it up to do this thing. There. Okay, we've got our HR department. The thing is, an HR department, which is fundamentally feminine, if you automate that thing, you've made it masculine. Because automation is a masculine phenomenon. It's impersonal, objective, pragmatic.
I was just as an aside going to mention that the one thing I hate more than HR departments is the men who work in HR departments. They're the worst.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because they're spiritually feminine. You have to be spiritually feminine to work in an HR department. HR departments are a function of the managerial society.
I got fired by a guy in an HR department once.
Ugh. That's got to be a low feeling. How did you feel, Cooper?
Well, I didn't really like him.
Is that the end of the story?
No, like, okay, so I had put in some time off, like an FMLA request because my son was about to be born. And then I filed an extension to take a few more days off. And then I get back to work that following Monday. And this soylent goblin pulls me into the office and says, like, oh, you don't have a job anymore. We're going to escort you out and we'll mail you all of your stuff from your desk. And I'm like my wallet? Can I go get that? Like, we'll mail it to you. Because I don't know, they were worried I was going to shoot up the place or something.
Well, you kind of have a look.
I guess, but like, that's the thing. Like, dude, if my extension didn't get approved, could you have like called me? You know?
Right.
I don't know. I don't like the guy.
Yeah. So HR departments, like, HR departments are bullshit. It's completely not necessary. This is a feature of the managerial society. But we're starting to see because of the nature of the progressions of technology, we're seeing a new rise in entrepreneurialism, which is like each time a new company is created, you've got a little slice of power here that's been carved off into a separate domain. And
that's what we are. We're businessmen. We're power brokers.
Yeah, right. That's right. We will broker some power for you. Just get in touch with us if you have some power for us to broker.
Give us your money.
Yeah. So the rise, the return of the entrepreneurial spirit and the ability through the internet of being able to create different ventures this way is leading to a fractionization. Fractals. It's leading to a fracturing of the business environment. So what we're getting now is, instead of kind of having the bell curve is flattening. So you're getting a whole bunch of little tiny companies and then a couple of really big companies. So I guess it's not the bell curve flattening. It's like it's
expanding.
Yeah. I don't know what I was trying to say. Basically what I was trying to say is, you have
I don't know what I was trying to say. Basically what I was trying to say.
Instead of having like a Fortune 500 and then like other little companies, you're going to have like a Fortune 5. And then the Fortune 5 are going to be absolutely gigantic. And then all of the other companies are going to be a lot smaller, and there's going to be from company 6 to company, end company that's going to be a lot closer than, say, Fortune 501 is to like the smallest company today. So this dynamic corresponds with the rise of the Gen X psychology, which is naturally very independent, entrepreneurial, renegade. We're going to do it our own way, very pragmatic.
It's kind of analogous to like a sort of feudalism.
Yes.
Where you have like,
this is new,
you got you have a handful of lords, and then you have all the little guys, which is basically every family and their family business.
Yes.
Brody makes an interesting point. He says HR is also a feature of managing a workplace filled with women. That's a really good point.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's no coincidence that these things arose at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one feature of the rise to power of the Gen X archetype, especially the given the dynamic of the internet and the personalities of the people who are on the internet, the ones who are like the most distilled expression of the Gen X archetype are going to be the ones to have the most influence in the next generation in the same way it worked with the boomers. You're I'm losing my train of thought. We've been going for too long.
That's fine. Do you want to chimp out?
Yeah, we haven't chimped out in a long time. Do you think the people are ready for us to chimp out? Do you think they have any idea what they're in for?
Oh boy.
Oh boy, here we go. You ready?
Let's do this.
Let's go.
I feel a lot better.
Yeah, that was great. That cleared the head.
Yeah, cleared the sinuses.
Yep.
I dropped my phone.
Yeah, everything went fucking everywhere over here. My headphones fell out, and just trying not to blow out the destroy everyone's ears on the mics. Dr. Crispy Rothschild said, "Most sense you made all night." Oh, that was fun. So essentially, to try to distill this down, you're seeing this rise of neo-feudalism and the principles of the Great Reset are going to they're going to be an accelerant to this, because the Great Reset is essentially the recreation of private governance. You're taking the governments out of the way. And I think this ties into this rise of these ostensibly right-wing politicians taking power. That you have the Geert Wilders and Javier Milei or whatever. I don't even fucking know what these guys' names are anymore. These ostensibly right-wing guys. Even the thing the fighter Conor McGregor. He's getting real riled up about what's going on in Ireland and talking about how he's got this whole vengeful son thing going on. And I think that this is going to probably be a pretext for something like the governments have been taken over. The governments are just too corrupt. We can't trust them anymore. They've been infested with Nazis or whomever else. And what we need to do is we need these major companies to start stepping up. You combine this with company towns. And you see the way that these major Fortune 500 companies are buying up
dystopian.
Real estate. It's pretty dystopian.
Yeah.
At the same time, like Cable said up here, it's essentially like the pretext to Yarvin's Patchwork Society. So the technological trends are starting to match up with the generational trends. You're having technological trends that are incentivizing this entrepreneurial segmentation of the market. You also have the World Economic Forum and their stakeholder capitalism, which is really just a euphemism for private governance. You're going to get the rise of neo-feudalism, of company towns, and the people who are subject to them are going to be like medieval peasants. They're going to be subject to their ruling overlords. This is going to start in sections. It's going to be in some places. It's not going to be in others. And this is going to take some time. But I think this sort of dynamic is going to happen faster than people expect, because the boomer die-off is going to happen so quickly. And it's going to be so dramatic. Because never before have we had a generation that's so institutionalized in power when they die. So a lot of power is going to be up for grabs really quickly. And I see these types of niche communities online that are people, these accelerationist type people they recognize where the puck is going and they're trying to skate to where the puck is going rather than to where it is now. And it's like the act of skating to where the puck is going is part of what makes the puck go there. They see, I'm not saying this specific schizo community on the internet is going to rule the world.
Wouldn't be.
I'm
so
saying
bad.
this, it may not be, yeah. But I'm saying this sort of psychology is what characterizes the people who are looking at this like a game. They're not looking at the world through ideological lenses, at least not the way the boomers were. They're starting to look at this as a game. How can we engineer the outcomes that we want? And they're doing it on a pretty sophisticated, complex level. So when people, you can be black-pilled about this. You can take the really pessimistic, shelling point. Sandman said, "Is that a shelling point?" Yeah, that is a shelling point. You have all of these people. Again, it can look like a conspiracy, but it's not necessarily a conspiracy. It's just a bunch of people following their baked-in incentives. And the nature of the baked-in incentives is leading it to this sort of outcome. There could be we could go hours longer of tying this into artificial intelligence and the way that artificial intelligence is reflecting back to us what we're doing while we're doing it and accelerating this meta dynamic. Because that's all AI is doing, is it's taking this thing that you could almost think of the Zoomers as being like the proto AI people, because they're reacting to their previous generations the way that an AI does. So there's so many different directions you could go. You could talk about this for forever, but we're coming up on 2 hours here. Let me just check the list of things that I'd said we were going to talk about to make sure I didn't miss anything.
The death
That
of the
always bugs me
managers.
when we do.
Is this what you were referring to with the boomers?
Oh yeah. So the death of the managers. That's when you have both the boomers and the managerial regime that they've presided over, and you have the millennials, who are the generation that's kind of found themselves as those middle managers. And the millennials are probably going to be SOL, a lot of them. A lot of the millennial generation are the ones who are going to wind up under the boot of the most ruthless of these new private social governance structures that arise. But I think that the Gen X spirit and Zoomer spirit both lend themselves to a lot more like them being detached from reality. The Zoomers being detached from reality and not believing anything is actually a perk. It kind of cuts both ways, but there's a positive side to it where they're not beholden to ideology.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I guess it's just I want other people to be able to kind of see where the puck is going, so we can start skating there together. How conspiracies form, even in the absence of conspiracy, ideas have people. Yeah, that was the conspiracy. It doesn't have to be an organic conspiracy. It can be a just the natural outworking of a bunch of people all following their incentives because they're possessed by particular ideas, and those ideas complement each other or don't complement each other. And you don't necessarily see that. You're just kind of acting according to your incentives. So when the boomers die, we're going to see a huge shift. And I'm thinking we should probably coin a term for it. It's going to be something like maybe you call it like the Great Adjustment or the Great Acceleration, sort of like the Great Reset, but it's not really going to be a reset because we're not resetting back to anything. It's going to be a very quick adjustment. It's
What if it turns out to be kind of gay?
It probably will. The big gay. Yeah, the big gayifying. Yeah. The big gayifying.
You have this tendency. No, the big gay is fine. You have this tendency to just like add more words and more syllables than are necessary to everything I say. Uh-huh. Why do you do that?
Because I have to counterbalance you.
No, it's got to be punchy.
Well, sometimes the big boom. Sometimes like, you're
the big gay, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's a really interesting idea. The large gayifying event." I'm like, that's not what I said, Matt. That's
almost 2 hours. We got to get out of here. Appreciate you guys.
Let's chill.
Thank you for let's chill our things.
Come sign up. We've got some ideas that we're working out the kinks, but we might have some ideas that are going to set the world on fire. So you want to be a part of that.
Oh,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, we started talking about a really interesting one yesterday. That was Yeah, we'll see if this happens. If it does, we may be toppling the domino that topples the ultimate domino. And then what was the other? Yeah, the supporting listeners group. You can join up there. Oh, I was going to say, I think it was Brody who commented and said that he's over 25, but he's not a father, and he wanted to know if he wanted to know if our fitness and nutrition coaching program, if he would be eligible for it. And unfortunately, no, you are not. I'm just kidding. Yeah, if you're the reason why we say fathers over 25 is because we want a particular psychological type. We want to work with a particular type of guy. If you are a father and you're over 25, you're naturally going to be given toward taking things more seriously, or you're more likely to be taking things more seriously. You're going to be more conservative in your choices. You're starting to sort of confront maybe it's not that you're not confronting being over the hill yet. That starts happening once you're in your 30s, a little further on, depending on how old you are. But it's kind of like you're starting to realize you're on a hill, and you start needing to make some life choices. So if you're over 25 and you're not technically a father, or you're not a father yet, then
you want to be.
But you want to be, then you can come join up. Because we got some young guys in there too who may need I don't know, would you call it, not a father figure, but maybe like an avuncular figure.
Will you be my dad?
Yeah, he said he did agree, Cooper. He said if that's what it takes, he'll be your dad. So you have a dad now.
Cool.
Your dad is young old boy.
All right, young old boy. What's up, Daddy?
Anyways, so if you guys are interested in the fitness and nutrition coaching program that we've got going on, then there is, I think I put in the chat or in the description of the video, you can just shoot me an email, Matt at hyperboreanlodge.com, Matt@hyperboreanlodge.com. Just shoot me an email and let me know that you're interested, and we'll get you going. All right. Almost 2 hours. I feel like I'm out of words. Let's end this. You guys can follow us on Twitter @RealKingPilled, @CooperBrooks. Please like this stream. Please share it. Please comment on it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on that little bell notification so that you know when we go live, when we post videos. And last call, Kingpilled Discord, subscribestar.com/Kingpilled. You can come join the Discord. We'll do a voice chat in there tonight where we'll talk about some more of this stuff and maybe some other stuff. Might do a little noticing. Might talk a little, how can we blow up the world through the invention of very interesting business models. And yeah, subscribestar.com/Kingpilled. If you get in now, you will be automatically grandfathered in at the top tier. No matter what you're paying now, you'll be automatically grandfathered in at the top tier of the new and improved Kingpilled Discord community that will be coming out here in the near future. So we'll talk to you later, guys. Have a good one.